What's up everyone, it's Bones here. In today's video, I'll be continuing my journey through Photon Hypernova as we're getting quite close to the end of it. But before I begin, if you could happen to click on those thumbs up buttons along with the subscribe buttons, it would be greatly appreciated as it goes a long way in supporting the channel and shows me that you like content like this. Clicking on those notification bells would also be extremely appreciated as it notifies you when I upload on the channel. Lastly, I would also like to point out that there won't be a lot of replays in this particular video because of how straightforward the support is, along with how few cards there are, but I am going to go over some different variants, one which is gaining some popularity over the last few days, but the other one is a very interesting variant that I have yet to see around, so I'm very excited to show this, as I feel that it can potentially open a new gateway into how you approach this deck. So the first card here is Vara, and it reads, you can only control one Vara, and you can only use each of the following effects of Vara once per turn. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one other Generaider card from your hand to the graveyard, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon one Generaider monster from your hand or graveyard except Vara. Right off the bat, an amazing card, and this is what allows the deck building to change so much. But I would also like to point out before I start here that the Lopter in this hand isn't necessary for what we're going to do here. The reason I have it is for the opponent, as I kind of just want to show what the new cards do before I go on to the variants. So we're going to start this hand here by using the Vara, pitching the Mardell, and from here we can use the Vara, reviving the Mardell. The Mardell will then net us a search here as we'll get ourselves the boss fight, and now we can go into our new rank 9, and this one reads that it takes 2+ level 9 monsters. You can only control one of it, and all monsters your opponent controls lose 1000 attack and defense. Quick effect, you can tribute this Exceed summoned card, special summon one non-fairy Generaider Exceed monster from your extra deck. Then you can attach cards from the field and or graveyards to it as material, up to the number of materials this card had, so keep in mind that's any field/graveyard, which is an extremely potent effect. But from here we're going to set our boss fight, pass over to the opponent. On the draw phase you can use the boss fight, use it whenever you would like really, but we'll let our opponent draw one as that's going to trigger the field spell, bringing out our Har, giving us another disruption, as we're going to get out the tokens now, as we get 3 of them, and from here we'll let our opponent quote unquote play, as we're just going to get some bodies on board so that we can let the rank 9 go off. It's cool that Vara also puts one in the graveyard as we're able to tribute it off here, bring out the OG Generaider, and from here we can attach the Mardell along with the Vara to it so that they can't get another level 9. As in this case scenario, Lopter would be able to give them an extra one, but that really doesn't matter. What does is how you use these cards, and Har being an extra disruption, while the OG Generaider can just do its thing by sitting on the field or using its effect if you want to. Now for the second variant here, and all these combos will be using Vara to some capacity because this video does kind of revolve around the new cards. But to get started, we'll activate the Vara, we'll then pitch our Mardell, and from here we can special summon the Vara, bring back out our Mardell. The Mardell will then get us a search, as we're going to search Loki this time around, and this is why it's kind of popular, as this card is known to be a 1-card combo. As we go into our new rank 9, normal summon the Loki, go into the Dryas will then use its effect. We'll then search ourselves the Sowing, as we'll also pay 1000 for the Sowing in order to bring out another copy of Loki. And from here we can now bring out our Healer with the Dryas, as we're also going to gain 1000, and then the Healer can use its effect targeting the Dryas, gaining 300 more. And from here we're going to link away into the Melius. The Melius will then bring out the Loki, and from here we can go into our rank 4 plant monster. This is stronger if you have something like Fenrir or the Dogmatica cards, as it just gives you extra layers of disruption. But I thought it was important to cover this because it's still relatively new. And if you want to see a video more focused on this variant, I will leave a link to it down below. But the next two replays I want to show are the real meat that I want to get into with this video. So for this hand here, it's really a 2-card combo. You just need any discard. The horror can be anything. It doesn't have to be a generator. And you're probably looking at the e-tele thinking, what's that doing there? And you'll see just momentarily as it's going to be the very first thing we activate, which will get us into the Zeoman. And we are playing the Punk card, and that's because Vara really does change this deck a lot. And we'll add the Foxy Tune off the Zeoman, pitching the horror. That's why I said it could really be anything. Special summoning out the Deer Note. And now we're going to go into the third new card here, a TCG exclusive, Diabolantis. And it reads, it takes 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner monsters. It's a Synchro level 8, of course. If this card is Synchro summoned, you can send insect and or plant monsters from your deck to the graveyard up to the number of non-tuners used for its Synchro summon. If you control this Synchro summoned card, you can target one insect or plant monster you control, treat it as a tuner until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Diabolantis once per turn. And the second effect won't really matter in this video, but the important one is that we can send a plant to the graveyard as we're going to revive the Foxy off of the Deer Note, and then we're going to send ourselves the Mardell, as we're going to go into the Sargus. And what this will allow us to do here is net us a search for the Lilybora. And this is where it gets a little bit spicy as we're able to summon out the Lilybora by equipping the Mardell to it. Then we can use its effect, which will send itself in order to get the Discoliseum. From here, we can use the Discoliseum, add ourselves the Regulus. The Regulus will then bring itself out by equipping the Lilyboria. And now we can normal summon our Lopter as it is under protection now. We're going to use its effect, bringing out the Vara. From here, we can use the Vara's effect, which will bring out the Mardell. The Mardell will then net us a search as we're going to get the boss fight. And from here, we can go into our new rank 9 Generaider. Now, I know that I didn't read the Sargus, and I was waiting for this moment to do so to show how this kind of all works together. So it takes 2+ level 8 monsters, and once per turn, you can also exceed summon Sargus by using one Springin Exceed monster you control. Transfer its materials to this card. If this card has material, you can add one Springin or Therian card from your deck to your hand, which is how we got the Lilybora. And if a material is detached from a monster on the field, except during the damage step, you can target one card on the field, either destroy it or return it to the hand. You can only use each effect of Sargus once per turn. So in the very first replay, you saw how you detach from the new Generaider Exceed in order to tribute off, and then attach cards your opponent controls to the OG, and attach cards from the field or either graveyard to the OG Generaider, while the Sargus provides you an extra pop. The boss fight can then get you into another Generaider, along with the Generaider field spell, giving you another disruption, but then you also have the Regulus on top of that all. Now this is the final replay that I'll be showing in this video. As I said, it's all pretty straightforward, and just like the previous video, what you want here is a Generaider discard, and the horror can literally be anything. So we're going to start this turn by using the Ogre Dance. From here we can add the Zeoman off the Ogre Dance, normal summoning the Zeoman. We can then use its effect, allowing us to get the Foxy Tune. The Foxy Tune can then use its effect, which will pitch the field spell here, as we're going to bring out Deer Note. We can then go into our Diabolantis, use its effect, chaining the Deer Note, as we're also going to bring out the Ogre Dance, and this time around we're going to send Mardell again, as we're going to use the Var here, as we're going to pitch the Har, use the Vara. Then from here we can revive the Mardell. The Mardell will then get us into boss fight, as we're now going to go into our new rank 9 Generaider, and this time around we're going to go into Zombie Stein. And the reason I show this is because you can actually save your boss fight if you don't want to activate it straight away, so that you can play around Dark Ruler no more with the Zombie Stein, so that when your opponent activates Dark Ruler, you just chain the boss fight, and then use the Zombie Stein chaining to the boss fight to negate the Dark Ruler. Now, I'll be going over all three of the deck profiles and kind of my thoughts. And the first one that we have here is the pure build, and something else that's noteworthy is I'm using the same generator count for every single build, as I think it's like the only ones that you need. But as for the pure build, you'll see that we have Fenrir's along with the Dogmatica package, and the reason for this is just to reinforce your boards while also adding some consistency to the deck with the ability to just trim and get extra cards to hand. I'd like to think the extra deck is pretty straightforward, as well as we have a bunch of rank 9s for your generator monsters. And something cool that you can do here is play the F0 package, as you kind of do go into your rank 9s a lot. BLS because of the high levels that you just have naturally in this deck. The Underworld Goddess is probably like in all of the builds, as it's really the only link that I think all of the builds need, so that you can get over towers like monsters or other stuff that you need to get over. The second build is the plant build, and the thrust here can really be anything. I put thrust because it's able to add servant, prosperity, eye, talents, the sewing. There's just a lot of options that you can get, like boss fight as well. Being said, I still don't know how I feel about this version of the deck, seeing as you do play the 3 die and the 2 Loki along with all this extra deck space. But I do think the idea is there. It's something interesting to see how this evolves, if it does. And finally, we have the Punk one. As cool as it is, it's quite easy to brick with, as you do have the Therions, the Deer Note, along with your generators that don't really do much, and the going second cards that we have here. With that being said, the one thing that this deck definitely has going for it is that cards like Itelli, Lopter, Vara, Ogre Dance, they're all low resource cards that can get your plays going, and you're able to play them at a high amount. You also have Prosperity to dig into them, as it's not really hard to choose what you want to banish for Prosperity either, considering you'll kind of know what you're going to go into depending on what your hand is. Something else I would like to go back to with the plant variant is that you do kind of compete for the normal summon with Lopter by playing Loki if you don't happen to see your unexpected die, and the same can be said if you only see the Amen without the Itelli and the Lopter, so that's kind of important to note as well. So if you want to play a second Amen, maybe in place of like an Ogre Dance, something that's perfectly understandable. But with all of that out of the way, I'll finally get onto the card by card. As you saw, the same ratios as the rest. We have the 3 Lopter, the 3 Vara, 2 Har, the 1 Mardel, this one, the Dogmatica Ecclesia, the Fleur, the Punishment, 3 Nadir Servant, the Fenrir, 1 Terraforming, the Called by the Grave, the 3 Talents, the 3 Prosperity, the 3 Boss Stage, the 3 Book of Moon, the Imperms, the Metaverses, along with the boss fight to round out the main deck. To the extra deck, we have the Underworld Goddess, the BLS, Entis, Garura, and the Titaniclad. Your Nadir Servant, though you can also use the Aggregator if you want to negate face-up card in the field, which is important to note. There's the F0 package, the Zeus, the Aggregator, 2 new Generator rank 9, the 2 OG one, 1 Sacred Tree, and the 1 Phantom Fortress to round out this deck profile. The second one, we have the 3 Lopter, the 3 Vara, the 2 Har, the 1 Mardel, this one, the Thrust, the 3 Dies, the 2 Lokis, the 1 Ecclesia, the 1 Fleur, the 3 Prosperity, the 3 Nadir Servant, the 1 Terraforming, the 3 Boss Stage, 2 Talents, the 1 Called by the Grave, the Sewing, the Boss Quest, the Boss Fight, the Punishment, and the 3 Imperms to round out the main deck. And then onto the extra deck, we have the Entis, the Titaniclad. You can play Garura if you would like to. But here we have the Zeus, the Aggregator, which I would like to point out is something cool that you can do with the Generator build in general. 2 level 9s going into Aggregator, and the first thing it reads is that if this card is Exceed summoned, you can send 1 monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, and that can basically be Entis for a pop. And when this card goes to the graveyard, you can also negate an opponent's card. So this is also interesting, because if you happen to be playing around a certain floodgate-like effect where this comes up, Entis can pop the Aggregator. and you can negate that card, so I think that's kind of cute. Phantom Fortress, the Sacred Tree, the 2 new one, the 2 OG, the 1 Resurgent, the 1 Melius, the 1 Jasmine, the 1 Healer, and the 1 Dryas to round out this deck profile. And finally, we have the Punk Therion version, and basically just like the previous ones, 3 Lopter, 3 Vara, 2 Har, 1 Mardell, 1 of this one, the 1 Xiamen, the Deer Note, the Foxy Tune, the 3 Ogre Dance, the 2 Lily Boreas, the 1 Regulus, 1 Discolotheum, the 3 Eteles, the 3 Book of Moons, the 3 Talents, the 1 Terraforming, the 3 Prosperities, the 3 Boss Stage, the 3 Imperms, and the 1 Boss Fight to round out the main deck. Onto the extra deck, we have the 1 Underworld Goddess, Entis, which is basically here because of your aggregator. We have the Zeus, the Phantom Fortress, the Sacred Tree aggregator, the 2 new ones, the 2 OGs, 1 Zombie Stein, the Sargus, Nil Sigma, which you can make with a Generaider, and Xiamen, if your Xiamen gets hand-trapped. And our 2 summons from the Punk package are either Psychic and Punisher, or the Diabolantis, which I guess these are also options if you want to commit more space to the Punk stuff. As you see a second copy of Xiamen here, if you want to go that route. You can also play the Called by the Grave over the Terraforming if you don't want the extra consistency boost and want something that does something to your opponent instead. And then of course there's the Fenrir, which is just an added disruption in this deck. Its main goal is just to set up Boss Stage with a rank 9 when you don't have the Punk package in it. Anyways, that's all I have for today's video, and if you made it this far, I thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. It's Bones, signing out.